Greetings and various assorted salutations. What I'm going over today is another tutorial that was requested by students. And what this one is about is organizing your Google Drive. Now, what has happened is a lot of students have been put into using Google Drive, partially because that's how a lot of assignments are assigned by teachers. Like, for example, a lot of the assignments I have, if there's like a worksheet or something, you download you make a copy of it. And what happens with a lot of students is they'll accidentally make dozens of copies, in some cases, multiple copies of the assignment they're supposed to be working on, and then they work on bits and pieces here and there, and it turns out they can't figure out which one's which. And so the idea behind this tutorial is one part of it is going to be organizing your Google Drive, and then the other part about it is making sure that your Google Drive is as efficient as you can make it. Because while you theoretically don't have to organize your Google Drive, it is problematic when you need to go back through and find some stuff. So this is what Google Drive looks like at the top. You'll notice this part's censored out up here. This is the quick access. This displays some of the most recent documents you've accessed. Typically, if you're working on maybe one or two things in your Google Drive, you can access pretty much anything you're currently working on right there. However, obviously, that may not be the case if you're working on multiple documents or you need to access something you haven't used in a while. You may notice that mine is censored out in this video, and that's because I have various internal documents under review up there, so we don't want you seeing that stuff. Anyways, but some of the things you need to be aware of with this section is some of the things that you're going to see in your drive are not actually yours. They're documents that have been shared with you. You can separate things by clicking on shared drives or shared with me, and you can see things that you're collaborating on, different documents you're working on with a group or something. So that's one thing to factor. The stuff dumped down here, though, those are your documents. If you're like a lot of students, or you're like me, you just kind of dump everything in there. It dumps everything in there automatically, and you don't really think much of it. And then when you need something, you just search in the drive. You just start typing what you're looking for. This works to a point. I really need to organize my drive. I'm going to show you a portion of my drive that was organized, but I haven't kept it up to date. That's one of the things you have to keep in mind, is a portion of keeping your Google Drive up to date is on you, the user, as well. Because as you can see, I just kind of quit sorting stuff after a while. Anyways, let's go into one of the old sections that I've organized. Let's go into Classroom. Now, the way you organize your Google Drive is, the easiest way I found is through the use of folders. And so what I do is, to create a folder, you click on New, and you click Folder. Let's go through the process of making a folder. So the first thing you need to do is name the folder. I do a logical naming process. I'm going to just call this example, but you may want, if you're a student or a student, you may want to create folders based on the class you're currently taking or on things that you use. So like if you have like, what's a good example? Some students would have maybe a folder for each of their classes, and then they might have a folder for like a club they're in, if they get files from that, or create files for that, things like that. So that would be your thing there. Okay, so now we've got this folder built. We're going to work on the setting configurations. The reason why this is if you have a folder for a class, you may want to make it so that anything you put into that folder and then subsequently turn into a teacher, make it so that it automatically shares correctly. Because, you know, if you don't set your share permissions correctly, the teacher or anyone you're sharing files with cannot view the file that you submitted them. They'll have to request permission. And that process is tedious, annoying, and we want to minimize it as much as possible. I still make the mistake from time to time. So what you're going to do is you're going to right-click on the folder that you want to adjust. And you can do all kinds of different things with this. You can get a link for sharing it. You can download it if you're going to work offline. We're going to look at the share settings real quick. So the first off right now is you can add specific people or groups. So if you want to make a folder for turning in assignments to a teacher, add that teacher into the share. The other thing you can do is you can change the settings here. So like right here, I'm going to click on this, and you've got some options. If you set it to anyone with a school, this basically makes it so that anyone with a school account can view these files. You can also change it to a commenter feature or an editor feature. I do not recommend setting it to editor feature. If the more people who have access to your documents, the less control you want them to have over your documents. So most of the time, most people might be viewers. You might give a teacher commenter powers on your assignments. That would be a good thing to use. But viewer is the easiest, simplest one, and most people just stick with that. But commenter is good if you want, if your teacher does feedback onto your Google Docs or your Google Files, that can be useful. Editor you use if you're working in a group project and you have several members on the team that need access to editing things. And there's different settings. You can set it to restricted, so that only people you added in that previous menu can access the document. You can set it to anyone within your network. So in our case, the state of South Dakota, with a school account. Or you can set it to anyone with the link. This one's pretty common. This is the most open settings you can get. If you give anyone with this link, I do not recommend you use the editor feature. Don't give people that power. Just don't do that. Because you are responsible for your folders, for your files in your Google Drive. So we're going to set it to State of South Dakota, that one. And we'll put it at commenter, because that seems like a useful thing. So the reason why we set the folder this way is any files we add into this example folder will automatically change their share permissions to follow that folder. Instead of going through every single file and flipping those switches, we're going to use the folder to do that for us. Now to get into how do you organize your folder? How do you organize your drive? Well, you just click on files and you drag them into places. So like here I've got this, this is a Google form. I need this in the classroom folder. And it's going to tell you, by moving this to this folder, you're changing its file permissions. So I don't know if I don't want to use those permissions. So let's see here. I might need to create a folder then to better organize this. Let's create a folder and call this, Forms Organizer. Base the file names on what you need them to do. So then what you do is you drag things into the form organizer, and there, that goes in there. Let's see here. This is an old survey. We'll put that in there as well. Let's see here. If you see the little people next to that, that means that file has special share permissions in place. Let's see here. We can dump this into the samples. Yeah, I'm okay with that. This is misfiled. That should be in somewhere else. Actually, let's use this as a test case. So one of the other things you can do is instead of, if you have like folders within folders, it can get a bit complicated as to like drag this here, drag this there, drag this there. So one of the other things you can do is you can move files directly from the file itself. So I've opened up this file. This is a virtual student notebook I used in the past. And I need to put it somewhere else. It's not very useful out in that open folder. So what I can do is up here at the top, you have the name of the file. You can star files that are important to you. Some people use this as an organization system. You can move the file, or you can adjust the file so you can work in it offline. That's covered in a separate tutorial. Let's move the file. It may take a while to load depending on how crowded your drive is. Mine is quite overblown. But this is how you move individual files. Just while this is loading, I might do a jump cut. Uh-oh. Try again. I might do a jump cut in a minute. But you can create folders from here. So if you want to like organize your folders, there's create new folders. There's multiple ways to do it. You can do it in the drive. You can do it in when you're organizing it within a document. There we go. Now it's loading. So I already have a place to put this file. So we need to go into Classroom. And it is in Common Resources. Now, I'm going to be honest, my file organization system is not the best. I have a very chaotic system. Essentially, it's well organized in some areas and isn't in others. It's just the nature of how I do things. Let's see. Canvas. This goes into US History 3. I'm just double-clicking on the folder I want to open. And we're going to move... Yep, move it in here to Cold War. And you'll see it tells you the permission things and move. There we go. Now that folder's moved. And that's how you can organize your Google Drive, is use folders, set your permissions on the folders, and then move your files into those folders. Do be warned that if the file permissions are different against the folder, you may have some issues there. But for the most part, organizing your Google Drive is a good idea. It may take some time because you've probably been accumulating a lot of documents. And so that's kind of my advice. The other thing I recommend is if you're having troubles keeping track of, oops, I made multiple copies of a document, figure out which copy you want to work with and then rename it. So you just click up here and you can rename the file in here, and that'll help make things easier. So these are my tips for organizing the Google Drive. I will turn it on so the comment feature works on this YouTube video. If you have ideas on organization or how to make things more ordered, I'm open to suggestions, and I'm sure the viewers of this video would appreciate it as well. In any case, I do hope this helps, and until later.